top, right? But it definitely seems like, see this, like just like grind life. Look, last so many days. What else do you got? AMD? Yeah, I think AMD would be, that'd be probably top of the list too. Morning, peoples. What's going on in the hood? Guten Tag, Choyos. Guten Morgen, Choyos. All right. Yeah, okay. That's like a good rounding pattern too. So let's get up into this. We got things to do, people to do, things to see, as they say. Let's take a look at the market indexes. We had a big trend in the Qs yesterday. You know what? This is actually, even though you had a big day in the indexes, these can be the most frustrating days to trade, right? Because you have like a huge just gap and grind. And we didn't have a single, I mean, we were a 9 EMA D rider for most of the day. So that can be a little bit tricky because you always feel like you're chasing when you're just kind of grinding higher like that. But overall, that is a really nice confirmed breakout on the indexes. You also had it on the SPY, right? A big grinder. So that's actually really bullish. Now, you know, I think the key is going to be, because you've been seeing, right, the market breadth has been so nasty. The market breadth has been so nasty. So like, even though this year the market's been flying, right, a lot of like the stocks you may personally be trading, they have not been flying. You know, you haven't seen that broad-based kind of move. And part of that is just due to the IWM being, right, in such a big, at least at this point, right, a 7-8 month long range. It is probably going to, it feels like it's going to last probably, you know, into the end of the year. And we never know, right? But that's just a wild guess where the Qs have been trending. So that's where, you know, you see like that kind of dichotomy of like, okay, Apple or like AMD or something may be flying, but then, you know, like your mid-cap stocks and so on and so forth are just, you know, are really hitting the shitter. So if you take a look, you know, market breadth yesterday was pretty good. You had 524 4% breakouts, very few breakdowns. And that's really the key. Like if you see here, like, you know, that ratio. So you've been seeing like 300 the day before and really only 74. So market breadth has been going up. And that's what we want to see. It's not the indexes, but that market breadth, the ratio of breakouts versus breakdowns. The T21087, that's a percentage of stocks over your 200 SMA, right? You're starting to bounce a little bit over that. You really want to see that into the closer to the 60s for like a really broad-based market run. And then your T21088 is still really low. You know, like a hot market, there it's usually in the 70s, and then like kind of 80s and 90s is extreme. So we are getting a little bit of a bounce in market breadth, which will be more important than a bounce in your actual indexes. But the main thing is at some point, the market will get frothy and like hot and sexy when that IWM starts to follow with the rest of the indexes. You know, till then, we're going to get still a little bit more of like the action will be in large caps per se. BPTH, so let's take a look at the earnings plays, and then from there, we'll go into our just regular watch list. BPTH, this looks like today's crack cocaine, already 13 million shares in volume. You are breaking like a big range here. You know, frankly, this thing's a big turd. Something like that could work. Now, I'm still out of no small caps. No small caps rule for a little bit. Cara here, Cara, HC Wingridge, just price target, AC Ringway. They're like the fucking, I mean, they're the worst. The HC Wingridge raises target. Man, we've had some good luck trading this in the past. Gets FDA nod for Puritas treatment. That sounds pretty good to me. Let's add Cara to the list. As long as it holds over the 200 SMA, I think we can add that. You can add BPTH too. At least it's not like $2. But I mean, I'd be surprised if I personally play it, just because I'm an honorable person. I'm not a degenerate, but there's a shot I do trade it because sometimes I am a degenerate, but it's not a priority. Now, look, all these China stocks are popping up. Pinduoduo post rise in revenue. There must have been some broad-based China news. I don't know did anybody see it. It doesn't really matter, but you can see here this thing went from in the pooper to already busting over the 20 SMA today. We can't chase these up because, oftentimes the gaps have been liquidity traps. Like we saw a big gap on these a couple days ago, but the odds of like that big gap fading up twice is like much smaller. But you can't chase up something in a downtrend that's up, 11%. Well, look, this thing was at 230 bucks, got down to 74. In general, when you're thinking of downtrends, especially in large cap names, when you're thinking of downtrends in large cap names, 75, 80% is, about the max pain you're going to get, right? Like that, even in any big market kind of crash. So this is like 330, you're getting down into 150, so 60, 70%, right? PDD, Baidu, really the same. So I do think at some point, these are like this 350 down to 140, right? So it's about 75%, give or take. So you are at the spot where they should start to bounce, but we'll have to see how the first dip holds because it could be a liquidity trap. The news is still out there, right? That, the government's going to be shutting some things down or doing some more regulation. You see BABA, technology with serious financing, blah, 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 data offering. But this PDD actually is probably the best out of the group because it's over the 20 SMA and it's got fresh news out. It's got post-rise, earnings, blah, blah, blah. Earnings is always the key. So like, I think out of the group, that's probably going to be, that's probably going to be the best one out of the group. I think personally, like BABA tends to trade the thickest, and so it can be a little bit more tricky. We've had better luck trading PDD and Baidu, but we've been going to BABA the last few days because it's just been fading off. It's been fading off the most. I think that's going to be something I keep an eye on those. Like this is going to be, it's going to be in play. JD's also, but see, like the JD chart is just because it didn't fall as much, right? It's been stuck in a range for a long time. That, this chart is a little bit more, what's the term? Like when you cruise out to the bar with your friends, it's a butterface. It's a butterface. No good. This one is no good. Shaba had some news, gets FDA nod for design, protocols, Alzheimer's, blah, blah, blah. This thing is a turd, but this is probably going to be in play today too. You got, this is the key thing with this bad boy. So like you kind of broke over the trend line yesterday. Now you're taking out this old high. This thing has the ability to be a mover. It is a big smelly turd in general, but like the chart is very hot, and that's really the main thing, right? So this is probably prime time candidate for an ORB. Its float is low enough where you can probably try it. I wouldn't put all your eggs in the basket on this one just because it's a big smelly turd, but I think that has got that's going to be in play in some manner for us. Billy Bong, Beaky. Is Beaky a Chinese name? That I did not know. Beaky, do you love me? I think Beaky doesn't have the liquidity you need. Yeah, Future is the best mover out of the group, right? Historically, always been the best mover out of the group. This one's also right, cut down by 70, 80%. It's the best move. When it was trending, I should say it was the best mover out of the group. It hasn't been for a long time. But I think that's one that also, is worth the gander. So like PDD, Baidu, Baba, Future. I think you don't need any other ones besides those. Like those, at least for the Chinas. There's a whole host of little ones, right? Like fucking Los Tigres, TME, IQ. There's a whole host of these. So if you see like a broad base, right, like a broad base run, then you can start going into like the IQs, the TMEs. We'll see if the first dips hold. Like we don't really know anything yet. They could just be a little bit of a push. CrowdStrike Holdings to join NASDAQ 100, which is also interesting. The other thing is that this is first of all a really nice chart. And its competitor, right? The PanW also had earnings out today, and it looks like they're blowout. They're gapping up to all-time highs here. Now, PanW sucks to trade, like in general. CrowdStrike is a nice trader. We've always made money on this thing. Not always, right? But we make the monies on this one. Man, that's top of the list, I think. That's one of the top of the list. Let's add that. So let's just regurgitate. We got Baba, Baidu, Kara, BPTH, which I won't trade. I'm putting on the list for you guys' sake. PDD, Shava, Crowd. These are just our earnings plays, right? And then we're going to have to go in and kind of dicker and deal into some of the other ones. Good. Bum, 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 bum. Junk. Right. Let's see what's going on the downside. Junk. These are like all ADRs. So yeah, mRNA and BNTH are fading off a little bit in the pre-market. I wouldn't worry about that too much. I mean, they have dumped $10. If these things come back and kind of pull back hard, I actually think we'll probably try to, maybe take a little bit of a long on them. I keep an alert around 367. That's where your 90 EMA, 20 SMA are. That's where, Flash, it, baby. That's where the support will come in. That's where the support will come in on these bad boys. That's pretty hot right there. So let's come in only about 367, 370. If we start to see some support build on it, let's watch for a red to green. Guys, the ATR on this is $41. So it moves better than any small cap. You can trade 50 shares of this back and forth and make 2 G's. That's when you have that kind of ATR. So keep eye on it. Invex has got a level here too that's building. It's tested it now quite a few times and kind of been rejected by it. So you got 1, 2. We're coming up into the third test. Keep an eye, like once it starts approaching 260, watch on smaller time frames to see how it congeals in terms of tightens up the range. That should show you if it's going to have the power to break over that 260. So what you want to do is, you have your trading patterns, but then you want to see how they react around key levels. So once you start getting into those levels, right, that's when you start looking for specific trading patterns to give you a clue of whether they bust through. Good. BT, awesome. So Baba, Baidu, Kara, BPTH, PDD, Sava, Crowd on the PR side. Now let's just talk about the general watch list. We got, remember, a flat open on the Qs, which is good. After a big day, after a big trend day, you don't necessarily want to have like a huge gap up. If we had a huge gap up today, we would have probably sat around all damn day and it would have been really, really frustrating. With this kind of flat open, the world is our oyster today. We may be able to take this thing up and down, but I wouldn't be surprised to see the market pull a little bit today. And the reason for it is we've had 3 monster, big days in the Qs. The odds of getting a huge pull is close to under 10%. But like having a rest day or a consolidation day or like even an inside day is probably in the cards. So, when you get like 3 monster cap big days like in the Qs, usually a little bit of a rest day will happen. You can kind of see, right? Like, even the SPY's getting a little bit long in the tooth over here. So just be mindful, like you may not get like a big trend day. I'd expect a little bit more choppy McGee today than yesterday, where you were just kind of right, just riding in the wind the whole day. Let's take a look and see like what's going on with some of our kind of, whoa, what the fuck? Some individual names here. Bum, 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 bum. Hold on here. We'll go from order of importance. We had a nice kind of closing on AMD yesterday. We're starting to approach some levels here that if we start to pull through, I think that'll put this thing back on its way. If you really think about the semiconductor space, right? NVIDIA itself broke out yesterday. You had kind of your triple tap breakout over here. You had a really big day with almost 12 points of range, which is pretty good on a kind of a really heavy stock like that. I expect this one to probably pull a little bit today. You're coming back from 180 to 215. So about it's used up 30 points of range in 3 days. I'll expect this one to pull back a little bit today. And at that point, you'll start to see, I've been thinking the money flow back into AMD. And you can see this chart's looking pretty zesty. Is that a Donnie Hensley sighting? Hot damn. Where the fuck you been? You owe me a phone call. I owe you a phone call. FaceTime, preferably. Let me see that beautiful mug of yours. You sexy stud. All right. So we got AMD. With the market cruising like this, it's going to be any day now. In the next 2 days, this thing is going to bust loose. It's a matter of just timing it. Yet, even with AMD and some of these other ones picking up some steam, this was an earnings breakout over here. So you got a gap from earnings. You got, 2-3 week consolidation. You're building up that steam. And if you can see, like the range is really tight, right? So when your ATR compresses on a stock, your average true range, it was going from $10, $15 on those big earnings days to now, like it's been really moving around just the last few days. That one was going to be, this one could bust loose any day. Docs, man, I fucked this up, man. I had so much of this at the open yesterday, and we sold it early like a bunch of chubs. Man, big fucking trend day on this. You had 8 points of trend. This is an IPO breakout. So when you think about like what type of stocks make big moves, right? Catalysts, things with big range and catalysts, right? So like this one had, earnings out a couple days ago, hence like the 2 big days. Now you've kind of consolidated that move. Now you're starting to make your secondary pushes. So IPO stocks, these are fresh issues. Those tend to move when they have catalysts more than regular stocks. The float on this is under 100 million, so it's considered fairly low. But this is like mid-cap size, that $5 to $15 billion company, when they have catalysts out, those tend to be the cleanest traders. I know like every asshole wants to trade like fucking, right? Your lo and behold, your next $5, VVPR or whatever might come out. But like there's nobody that makes money off those people except the person that's the first one in. You might once in a while, but like you're not seeing fucking bajillionaires like trade fucking VPR or, anything like that. So like really be mindful, like, you trade small caps for fun, but like nobody makes money off of them. Like you trade them for fun, but like you won't see any like professional traders actually trading these. Like guys, if a guy gives a screenshot of a P&L and it says like I made $1 million and it's from your Thinkorswim app, I would run. Because nobody with millions of dollars trades at Thinker crap, and definitely nobody trades off their phone. That's not gonna happen. So just be mindful of those things. There's a time and place for all those kind of things, but it's for fun. It's like an addendum to a regular trading strategy. So like if your trading strategy is built off trading ALF and FLGC and VPRs and any of some little turd that shows up on a trade ideas gapper scan, then your life is in shambles anyways. Yeah, I get my trading ideas from a trade ideas gap scan. So don't do it. Don't do it. Be a man of honor. Be a man of honor. Not you, airballs. You're good at it. All right, let's add this Roblox. I think this one too, you got a really nice you got a nice area to kind of cook out of this in this 86, 87 zone. It does trade a little bit spiky at times, but I think like with the market starting to push, this is going to be a good spot to like get loose on this one. That's top of the list. Netflix, Etsy, you can add those, but I don't think those are going to be really anything. So let's just regurgitate here. We got these gappers, China's, Terra, BPTH, Sava, Crowd. All right. On the non-earning side, we want to add some semiconductor like AMD. Then we have our virus plays. Virus plays are daily traders. So BNTX, mRNA, these are daily traders. At this point, it doesn't really matter what the internal setup is on the daily on those. The ATRs on them are so big that you can trade them. We trade them back and forth all day because they have 40, 50 point range. You know, when you have 40, 50 point range, even if you're just shredding a couple hundred shares at a time, you nail it right, you're going to get yourself a little pizza party. So that's the list. I'm sticking to it. There's no addendums. There's no this. There's no that. Most of the other stocks stink anyways. Pixel. So look, this had 3 big days. So I do think this will need a rest day. You had a nice trend on it. And this was actually like a steadier one. This wasn't like an ultra low flow. You can trade these kind of small caps because they move pretty steady. I would expect a rest day on this just because you had 3 big days. Always thinking trading, stocks get their pops. They make momentum pushes in 3 to 5 day pushes, right? So like a majority of a stock's move is usually made in 3 to 5 days. If you have 3 big up days, it's really time for maybe like 1 or 2 rest days or a little bit of a pull. So just kind of be mindful of those things. I wouldn't, if it came back to like into the zone, then, probably take a little gander at it. Jordan Axelrod, what's up, baby? Macy's is another one probably to keep an eye on, especially with Amazon, announcing they're going to try to get into like retail stores, which seems very weird, but that's where we are. Cool. Let's go. Let's get this thing going. We got a big day. Hassan, but you don't need to. You can build that thing $200 a day at a time. By the end of the year, you're going to have yourself a nice big trading account, much bigger trading account. And then you're going to have some fun. But you got to take the long road of it. I think out of the small caps, probably the one that's, going to have the most heat is the BPTH because it's got a history of making moves. Hey, U is a nice one too. There's a lot of good looking stocks out right now. Baidu, PDD. Okay. And then add that docs to the list too. Remember, guys. Cool. Let's have some fun today. Yesterday was a little bit of a grind after that opening push. It's really hard when you get a trend day in the market. But I think we're going to have some fun today because we should get a flat day, a little bit of a rest day. That's going to give us some heat. If I could turn back time. All right. Let's get our 6 window layouts going, peoples. These are the ones that are sponge worthy. All right. Let's go do what we do, which is do. If I could